Well, hey there, my golf friends. I hope you're doing amazing. I have a special podcast for you today. I'm basically going to rebroadcast the podcast that I was on as a guest on Switching Teams with Sarah Held. Sarah is the CEO and founder of Elite Golf Experience, where they plan golf trips and golf experiences, and you definitely want to check her out at weplanyouplay.com. But I first met Sarah when I went out to the Desert Classic out in Phoenix last year. I saw her again this year, and we connected, and we said, let's do a podcast together. So I wanted to share it with you. We have some fun conversation, and I just think there's always something valuable to learn. So without further ado, here is the Switching Teams podcast with Sarah Held, Amy, and myself.
Hello, welcome back to the Switching Teams podcast. My name is Sarah Held. I'm your host today, and I have Amy Arnold back again. Hi, Amy.
Well, hello.
Did you get any more hole-in-ones since I've seen you last?
Yeah, I was working on it, but no.
Come on, slacker.
I'm working on it.
And I have the infamous, the one and only Kathy Hart. How are you, Kathy?
I'm amazing. Thanks for having me on. I'm so happy to be here.
Yes, I am so excited. I told a bunch of my girlfriends this morning. A lot of them took your clinic at the Desert Classic. So, of course, they're all like, tell her I said hi. Tell her I said hi. I said,
hi.
She had a couple students. I don't know that she'd remember you. So
that was fun.
For those listeners who don't know Kathy, she's kind of a big deal. And I just picked a couple of your accolades. I know there's a lot more that I'm not going to name, so I apologize. But, you know, I can't spend the whole show talking about all your accolades, Kathy.
Please do not.
So you were named LPGA Top 50 Teacher from 2017 to 22. You're a certified life coach, which actually I didn't know. So that was fun. So I want to talk about that. You were also named Golf Digest Top 50 Best Women Teachers in America. That's kind of a big deal.
Yeah.
And you were voted top favorite teaching pro in New Jersey by the Golf Styles New Jersey. So I guess my first question is, do you have snow on the ground still?
I don't live in New Jersey anymore. I moved out of there, but I live in North Carolina right now.
Oh, yeah, that's right. Okay. So you don't have snow. Did you get any snow this winter?
No.
Does it ever?
Not in North Carolina.
Okay.
But I tried to spend a lot of my winter in Florida. I just moved to North Carolina from Florida. So it's like I've been up and down the East Coast.
Where in Florida?
Naples.
Okay. I love it.
Yeah. Yeah.
So
road trip.
Let's go.
For sure.
So I also saw you competed professionally in 15 countries or over 15 countries. So it begs the question, what was your favorite country to play golf in?
Switzerland. Well, yeah, Switzerland, because it was just gorgeous. It was like you got pissed off. You just looked up and you just kept looking up and just kept looking up. It was like amazing mountains. So that was probably one of the coolest places. I had the most fun in South Africa when I played down there. It was a lot of fun.
I had a lot of country
fun. I had more. You know, I got the unofficial title of Social Rookie of the Year. So needless to say, I had fun when I was over there. So I don't know that you could go about playing in that many different countries and experience it the way I did. So I'm super grateful for it, even if I didn't have the most amazing, I didn't make a ton of money. Let's just put it that way.
Well, you know what? It's all relative, right?
Yeah.
Which is funny because I just listened to your podcast this morning about having fun.
Yeah.
So how appropriate. Okay, Amy, can we put Switzerland on our list?
Switzerland.
Yeah, write that down.
Switzerland.
Yeah. So before we really get into kind of your brain and picking apart your brain, I want to get into some fun stuff first. So I kind of want to ask both you girls, because it's a big week, kind of. There's a green jacket on the line, I think.
I believe you're accurate.
So I want to hear both of your picks, maybe top 2 or 3 picks for the week, for Sunday. Who do you want? Who do you see? If you had to put money on it, who's it going to be? Kathy?
Rory.
Okay.
Max Homa. Kind of like to see what happens there, right? And then I'm still rooting for Justin Thomas.
I know.
Like, it's just, I know. Yeah, right.
He's a fan favorite.
Like, come on.
You can't help but love that guy, you know.
I know. Yeah.
Amy?
My top 3.
You know, we had the same two, Rory and Max. Love Max. He's an Arizona guy.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. We had dinner the other night, and so.
Push the mic a little closer.
Oh, Right.
Wait, you had dinner with Max Homa the other night?
She just slipped that right in there.
That's my dream foursome. He's in my dream foursome. No, I'm totally kidding. No, so Rory, Max Homa, and I don't know. You can't discount Scotty. He's playing.
I know.
He's playing great right now.
It would be fun to see Scotty just because he's just on fire right now.
Well, he won it last year.
I know, and he's unstoppable right now. I'm going to throw one out there that's not like a typical one, but I wouldn't mind seeing it, is Corey Connors from Canada.
Oh. Yeah, he just won the Valero, right?
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. I like him. I walked with him at the Phoenix Open last year, I think. He hits the ball really well.
I think it'd be interesting if a live guy won.
I'm probably going to cause a lot of controversy here to say I don't want to see it.
I think it'd be interesting. I said, I didn't say it'd be interesting. Yeah.
It is interesting to hear everyone's perspective. There's a lot of people who are like, I don't want to see a live guy win. And then there's some people who don't care because they're just a fan of whoever it is. I'm sure there are plenty of live guys that want to win it just to throw it in the PGA's face. Like, take that. But we'll see. I'm excited. I have had it on nonstop while in my office. I can't get enough of the opening theme song. Like it just gives me the chills every time.
I know. Steph is like, Golf Channel again.
Yeah.
And the problem is.
Right. And okay, so Kathy, what's your Champions dinner menu look like when you're hosting it?
So I'm pretty boring. I was thinking about this. I could have tried to do something kind of exotic in there, but I'm like a tenderloin and baked potato and a salad girl. Like if I had this, my go-to, if I had someone said, what do you want for your birthday dinner? That's my birthday dinner. I might do like a crunchy, extra crispy tater tots, but in place. But I'm a steak and potatoes kind of girl.
I'm just going to go back to the road trip comment I made the other day. So
okay.
Yeah. Dinner at Kathy's.
Dinner at Kathy's. And how about you, Amy? What's your Champions menu look like?
I'm kind of Kathy. I think we were separated at birth. Steak and potatoes. I threw in there corn souffle.
Whoa.
Yeah.
Whoa.
It's a thing. And creme brulee for dessert.
For dessert. Yeah, that's a good one.
Yeah, I can't go wrong.
Yeah, I'd probably do a chocolate molten cake.
Ooh.
Okay.
Yeah. Wow, you belong at Fleming's. Like that's like the Fleming's dinner right there. Yeah, I'm doing a wedge salad with some real good blue cheese dressing, crumbled bacon.
Blue cheese?
Oh yeah. Just no judgment, please. Then I'm going to do a filet, but I'm going to do it with a blue cheese crust again. We're just going to overload. But my potatoes is going to be like au gratin style. I like a good scallop potato. Cheesy, creamy deliciousness.
Nice.
So
That's fancy.
I know. And then one last fun question. Who's your dream foursome, Kathy?
Okay, so going back to the live tour thing, I think it would be hysterical to play golf with Jay Monahan, and who is the PGA commissioner, and Phil Mickelson and Greg Norman.
Wow, that's actually pretty good.
That's how you spell controversy right there.
Exactly. I love that.
It's a temporary thing. That is just a now thing. It's not really, I'm not interested in playing with really good golfers as much because I've been around a lot of good golfers, but I would probably go with, other than Joel Damon, I think he would be fun to play with. Yeah. I would just like to that. And then probably Jason Bateman and probably Nate Bargatze. How do you pronounce his last name? Is that
I think you said it right.
Yeah, the comedian. Yeah. I'd like some funny people in there.
Yeah, I like that.
Yeah.
Amy?
I don't know. Yeah. If I was going to have a funny guy, I'd probably pick Bill Murray.
Oh, yeah. He would be fun to golf with.
That guy. Never a boring moment with that guy. But my foursome is, of course, I can't have a dream foursome without Tiger.
Right.
Max Homa and Nelly Korda.
Nelly Korda. Right. Yeah. Nelly Korda is definitely in mine just because I think her swing is just so beautiful. Yeah. Said that in the last episode and I still believe it.
She is a stick and
she
outdrives me by 50 yards. And I got to figure this out.
Maybe she just eats more mean potatoes than you.
I've been having a lot of salad.
I would say Nelly Korda for me. And then I actually like that Joel Damon and his caddy.
Yeah,
that's who I want to play with because his caddy seems fun right? too. Yeah.
Remember that part in Full Swing True or false? I'm the only caddy that'll call his golfer a boner.
And name
it. Golfer a what?
A boner.
Oh
my God.
That was a real boner.
I bet you they're just fun to hang out with.
Oh my gosh.
Yeah.
So speaking of you playing with some good players, when did you tell us about your golf playing history? When did you start and how did that look growing up?
Well, so I'm a golf pro's daughter. So I grew up at a country club. My dad was a club pro. So I grew up in Rochester and Buffalo, New York. Our season was really short. As soon as I could, I went to work with my dad in the morning at 5:30 in the morning. I came home when the shop closed and I just spent all day at the golf course. So I started competing nationally, which is not a big deal now, but it was if you're from Buffalo at 12. And so, and then I just progressed. My game progressed. So I played for Furman University and played college golf there. And then they're like, well, you got to give it a try and go try and play professionally. So I did that. And I played, like I said, all over the world. And I played all over the United States. I finally figured out the math before I went through tour school too many times. And the math just didn't work. It's like I packed my suitcase in January. I unpacked it in October. I spent more money than I made. And when I figured out the math on how much money I would need to make or where I would have to place on the money list, it was just not a smart, financial move. And I was okay with moving on because I was so really miserable with the way that I was performing. I always felt like I was underperforming. There's a lot of pressure in playing golf when it's like you're relying on it to fill up your tank of gas and to pay the bills. It's a different animal out there, but I always felt like I was underperforming. So I ended up marrying a golf pro, and we started teaching for the Nicholas Flick golf schools. And then I just went down the teaching path after that.
So at what point did you start focusing on like the mental side of the game?
So I'm a nerd. So I've always studied it my whole life, trying to really solve for my own, like why I struggled. I have a brother who played on the tour, very successful, won PGA Tour events, played Champions Tour. He now coaches at University of Florida, but because his body has given out on him. But I was like, why did he always do it? Why was he successful? And what was I struggling with? I was actually smarter than him, like intellectually, but what was missing? And I was always trying to solve for that. And I really went down this road with some life coaching for my own personal things that I had going on. And it dawned on me that this was the piece that it was missing on why I wasn't playing to my potential. And so I switched gears. I went all in. It was really the missing piece to all the studying I've been doing on self-improvement throughout my whole life. And I realized that I turned my golf game. I quit golf for like probably about 10 years for the most part. I mean, I taught, I just didn't really play because I was just not having fun doing it. It wasn't enjoyable. And so I switched gears and I realized that I made the biggest impact on someone's life and their game by helping them manage their mind versus helping them fix their grip or helping them fix their posture or change their swing plane. This is the biggest impact that I've ever made on someone's life. And I love helping people. So I just switched gears.
And I think you did the right choice because you have been very successful at what the path you've chosen. So good job at listening to, your inner self, knowing that this was, your strength and what made you feel.
Now, how long did you play on the tour?
So I played for about 7 years professionally. About 7 years. Yeah. About 7 years professionally. So that was my job of just making money and living off of that. And then I just had enough. It's a grind, and there wasn't a lot of money for women. So, and then the senior tour was coming out when I was playing. And so that took some of the pool of the money too, right? So the pool of money for women got even smaller. So there was one time I played on the South African tour. That's why I said we had fun. I went with my friend Kelly Stenzel and we looked at the money list, and it didn't matter if we finished third or last. We made like $5 difference in money, and it wasn't really enough to pay our expenses. So we're just like, well, we might as well have fun. I mean, how many times are we in South Africa? I know this doesn't sound like a great, kind of mentality, but the money was just, it's not, I still needed a sponsor to help me pay for my expenses.
At some point, you just have to accept the fact that that's the reality of what you're up against. Unfortunately, hopefully someday we'll see that change, but I don't know if it's anytime soon, unfortunately.
I think former players, make the greatest coaches. Now, I'm not sure if, like a Tiger Woods elite level, if they can turn around and do coaching that effectively. I mean, I'm sure he coaches Charlie to the, his
Yeah, but
son.
Charlie speaks his language.
True. But I think former players who banged around the game for a while and then switch into a coaching aspect, man, they flourish. I mean, it's like they're calling. Okay, I know what needs to happen, and now I can tell someone how to do it and show them. And yeah, absolutely.
Well, I think one of the challenges for me when I went from playing for a living to teaching was I remember helping this one woman who really couldn't get the ball in the air. And I felt sorry for her. And I said, oh my God, I would never play the game if this was what I had to do. Like I was just shocked by it. This was really a big epiphany for me. And then she hit a shot. I helped her and she hit a shot like 50 yards. And I was like, and she was so ecstatic. I think I stared at her for like 3 minutes that someone could get that much joy out of hitting it like 50 yards off of the, we were in a building at the time. And that was my biggest moment. And that I had to redefine what golf was and like what, golf was to other people. And then on my journey of learning, of becoming a pretty good teacher was figuring out how to say it to as many different people and personalities and different ways as you can. That's what a good teacher is, in my opinion, is, really being able to communicate what you know to as many different voices and heads and learning styles as possible. Most really good golfers, they're not, or even tour players are not very good instructors because they think of it in their language. It's only the way that they see it. And they really don't want to spend the mental energy to try and see it in someone else's light or how to help them because it's not a good use of their brain until it becomes their job. And so that helps serve me. That's really the journey of becoming a very good instructor, is learning how to say it in a bunch of different ways so that people can resonate with you, with one, or the information. Like I always say, I'll just keep going through my Rolodex and say it a different way until it clicks for you. The better of a day that I had was the quicker I pull out the right Rolodex card for them, right? And learning that skill has helped me when I coach people, because I learn how to say things multiple ways so that resonates with their brain relative to how they manage their heads. Yeah,
I love that. And that is how I picked, I've only taken 2 lessons, but it took me a while to find this guy because I needed someone who spoke sports to me. So I played softball, so I need it translated into my softball language because that's what makes me understand it. So immediately when I met him, he said, what position did you play? I said, I was a pitcher. And he goes, okay, what was your pitch you threw? And I told him, and he goes, okay, well, this is why you're doing what you're doing. Imagine throwing this pitch and your wrist does, and that's what clicks for me. When I hear 2 technical golf terms, I'm like, was that English? What'd you just say?
The angle of the pitch.
Yeah. So I think that's such a good gift to have. And I don't think everyone has it.
No, I agree. Yeah.
So
for sure.
What percentage of golf do you think is mental?
Well, according to Jack Nicklaus, 99%.
Yogi Berra said,
Jim Flick, his instructor, that was 90%, and then the other 10% was mental. So, those are some 2 big names that will, but, really it is, I don't know that you can quantify it, but I always say that it doesn't matter to me or to the golf ball how pretty your swing is or how beautiful your TrackMan numbers are or how bad you want it or how hard you worked. If you can't let your talent out on the golf course, if you can't manage the thoughts, the negative thoughts that come up and the negative emotions that come up at any given moment in time, you don't have access to your talent. So so for some people that might not be a problem or an issue, and for other people it might be a bigger issue. I think the thing that confuses that stat, now that I'm just thinking about this, is that sometimes we have what I call green light days. And green light days are those days where it's like the sun is beautiful, the weather's perfect, you love your pairing, you're playing great, your mind is quiet. And you're like, well, I don't think golf was mental today because it was easy. And then we have those days that are red light days where all of a sudden we don't like our pairing and the wind picks up and it starts raining or it's cold and the course is in crappy conditions. And it seems like we just keep getting a series of bad breaks. And now our brain chatters. It's just what our brain's designed to do. And now we're like, I don't have the skills to manage it. I'm a basket case out here. I feel very mental. And so it's like quantifying that. It's really, I think I know everybody experiences the 50-50 of that. We have some green light days, we have some red light days, we have a mixture of those. And so it's really the ones that stick out the most will people tell you whether golf is mental or not so mental.
So I was talking to my girlfriend about it last night. I was telling her I was excited about this podcast. I said, she's a mental coach. I said, this game is it's crazy how mental it is. And she played professional soccer. So she was a high level athlete. And she said, why is it any different than any other sport? And then I went, why do you have to ask me such difficult questions?
Yeah.
And so I thought,
what do you know?
What does make it? Why is it any more mentally challenging than any other sport?
Okay, I would say yes. And this is why, is because, for sure, your brain plays a role in other sports. But one of the differences between softball, soccer, tennis, basketball, any of the other sports where we use a lot of our energy, we can use negative emotion to our advantage. We can use high energy. We can use getting psyched up and all the things to our advantage. We can funnel it for our sport. It doesn't work for golf. What we're trying to do is stay in the center of the house in our zone where we can think clearly and we can swing freely. And then, so many people, when I coach them, they're like, all I had to do is if I just tried harder, I'd do better. And in golf, if we try harder, we don't do better. So that correlation isn't the same. And it F's with people's brains who are really good athletes in other fields. They're like, wait a minute, I try harder, I perform better. I work harder, I practice harder, I do all the things, and I get better results. There's a direct correlation. In golf, there isn't. It's about getting yourself, you're going to have highs. You got to get yourself back down where you can make your next best swing. And there's lots of time. It's less reactionary. There's time in between shots where the other sports are just going. And you have a team. It's just you.
That is that's a great analogy, because I look back on my softball days and I was a freshman varsity starting pitcher. And during that time, my sister was diagnosed with leukemia. And so my brain was just all over the place, not on the softball field. Like it was in the hospital room. But I took it and I was angry. And I went out in the mound every day I threw. I was pissed and I was like, you know what? And it helped me. It helped me throw harder. It helped me be more accurate for whatever reason. But then I picture myself in that exact scenario on the golf course. Oh, forget about it. Hot mess.
Yeah.
I mean, yes. If I didn't make my bed right, I'm like, can't even hit a ball straight now. So that right. I love that analogy, because when she asked me last night, I'm like, you got me. I don't know.
No, and when I played football, it's an aggressive sport, and you can take out that aggression and you can use that emotion to your advantage. But in golf, emotion is the enemy.
Mm-hmm.
Almost.
Well, that's not true. Okay, so that's where this is where we get. This is where I'm going to debate you on this. So golf is an emotional sport, right? And then just thinking that golf is the enemy is probably not going to serve us. So you can have 7 different emotions on any one hole. You can start the hole and be anxious or nervous. You can hit a shot and be pissed off. You can hit the next shot and have relief. You can have hope. You can have anxiety, stress, pressure, disappointment, shame. We can have them all in one hole. The goal is, so it's not about making emotions a bad thing. No emotion is bad. The only thing with golf where it becomes a problem is if it affects your next shot. So that's what makes golf so challenging, is that we can have all those emotions. And my job is to get back to what I call your preferred state, which is either calm, certain, or confident, or a synonym of those. You get to pick them, of course. I'm just picking the popular ones, the most common ones. And the reason that we like those states is because from that emotion, the way that emotion shows up in our body is I can swing freely. I can use my talent. I can use my skill. I'm not getting in my own way. And I'm up in my prefrontal cortex where I can think clearly and make good decisions. And where people get in their own way is they have negative emotions that linger into the next shot. And when those emotions show up in your body, when anger shows up in your body, you're usually in the back part of your brain. We get into a fight or flight mode. That's tension. That's stress. Now my body's tight. And when my body's tight, that might work for football and soccer and other sports and softball. But when my body's tight with golf, I can't feel what I'm doing. I can't move my body. I stop turning. I get faster, right? And all those things. My putts, next thing I know, I hit a 4-foot putt and I hit it 10 feet by, and you're like, what the heck happened, right? You feel like you have a sledgehammer in your hands. And so that's the objective. So, playing to your potential is 2 steps. I tell people, figure out your preferred state. That's the first one, like how you perform your best, how I just described, where you usually is how you're on the range or on those green light days. And then because we can think clearly and swing freely. And then step 2 is hit as many shots from there as possible. Because if you do that, you're going to take most of your talent on the golf course. And where the work is and how I help people is figure out why the heck I can't do that. Like what's getting in my way. And that's the skill. That's the life skill of managing your brain that's going to serve you on and off the golf course. It's just that most people don't know how to do it. And then we put it at the speed of golf, which seems like a slow sport, but technically it's not that slow. When you miss hit a shot and you got to walk up and you got a couple minutes before you hit the next shot, for us to deal with anger. Off the golf course, we can go have a glass of wine. We can sit in our car and seethe. If we're stuck in traffic, we can do all the things, but we don't have that ability on the golf course. So I always say that golf has a tendency to rip the Band-Aid off and expose our ability to manage our mind because of the speed that things go actually in golf.
I need Kathy in my head all the time.
Trust me. First time I met her, I was like, where have you been all my life? And every time I'm on the golf course, when I have a meltdown, I'm like, what would Kathy say? What would Kathy say? What would Kathy say?
I need one of those bracelets. What would Kathy
You need one of my bracelets.
This is a big one that I'm not good at. And maybe I just need to hear why I should be. How important is a pre-round and or pre-shot routine?
Okay, so pre-round routine, I'm not really sure what you're referring to, like warming up.
Yeah, warming up. Do you do the same thing every time? Does it matter? Do you stretch?
Okay, so I think that's a good point. Whatever? I do think it totally matters. So your pre-round, like let's just call it warm up. Okay, so if you go and you watch the Masters or any tournament, they're going to go through their typical warm up. And the warm up is, you want to think of it as having a utility purpose. It's just, we're going through the motions of loosening up my body, getting a feel for the different clubs, getting a feel for the pace of the greens, hitting a couple bunker shots, getting a little bit of familiarity with the shots again. You might focus on a club that you might use a little bit more during the round based on the course. So for instance, if you're, hitting more 3-woods that day off the tee, you might tee up some 3-woods and hit a couple of those. If you feel like you're going to be hitting some longer bunker shots, you might go practice those, whatever it might be. You might hit a couple extra of those, but you go through your bag the same way that you typically do, looking for maybe just one simple swing thought and some feel. I always encourage people to work on your tempo, and you're done. You don't make it mean a dang thing on whether it went well or didn't go well. And that's the beauty of making it just be, this is part of my warm up. It's like stretching before you work out. And what happens is people either they search for answers in their warm ups, or they make their warm up mean something about what's going to happen on the golf course. Because there's plenty of times where I played in tournaments where I've had a crappy warm up and I play it out of my mind, and I've had a wonderful warm up and I'm like, who am I out on the golf course? So the more we make our warm up neutral, like neither good nor bad, it's just serving a purpose, and we can separate it from what actually is going to show up on the golf course. Then we just kind of do the same thing every time. Like if you're hitting it great and you're like going, oh, I feel really good, and you want to take that feeling with you on the golf course, great. But just don't do the opposite, because you're going to find lots of evidence where it doesn't work. So that's warm up.
Love it.
About that. Sorry, Amy, you said something. I probably talked over you.
No, I tried to talk over you. Kathy and I were definitely separated at birth.
She was relating.
No, I mean, in terms of that, I've heard golf coaches kind of say different things, before you hit your shot, and, let's say you've got a 30-yard chip shot coming up, and, or you're on the tee. Is there one thought that you kind of tell your student or somebody who you're coaching, what is that one thought that they should have in their head before hitting their their shot or their tee shot? Or, I mean, what would that be? Would you coach to that?
Yeah. So if this is going to a pre-shot routine, I think should be the same every single time. The more, because your brain likes habits.
Every club, every shot, every day, no matter what.
Do it like you can do it in your sleep. If you're like, you get distracted or you miss a step, it should stick out like a sore thumb. That's when people start over. What that does for your brain is it gives you a lot of certainty. It's also like a little net for you to rely on. The purpose of your pre-shot routine is really to get your fundamentals in check so you don't have to think so much and you can free up your brain. Fundamentals being your grip, your posture, your ball position, your alignment, and your width of stance, right? We get those done in our pre-shot routine because that's the foundation of our swing. So we don't have to think about it so much, right? We want that consistency in our swing and that can free us up, right? It's very, First, in contrast, beginners, and I know you all have been around enough, beginners are like, oh my God, I have to think about my grip. I have to think about my posture. I have to think about all those things. They do in the beginning because they don't own it. But once they go through those steps so many times, now we don't have to think about it. Once we build that foundation of our setup, now we're free to think about something in our swing. And I encourage people to have one simple thought. One simple swing thought, maybe that you're over the golf ball. The thing that's going to be a little challenging relative to your question is there's certain shots that people have less thoughts over than others, right? So maybe your driver, you're like, I stand over it. I look at my target. I look at the ball. I waggle. I go. I feel pretty good about my driver. My brain's quiet, right? Our brain chatters when we think we're in danger or we think that, that somehow we're going to have pain, emotional or social pain. It's the way our brain's designed. It's designed really to fear us getting eaten by a saber-toothed tiger. We don't have to worry about that now. Now it's about social or emotional pain. Like if I go in the water, I'm going to have all this disappointment and shame. And our brain will sit there and start chattering thoughts to us, negative thoughts to us. So that might not happen on a driver. And so it's a little bit easier. There's less thoughts. But maybe you're standing over, let's say, a flop shot around the green or a 30-yard shot where you've laid the sod over it the last 4 times or you sculled it over the green, right? And your brain's like going, now you're hearing all these sentences in your head, like, don't do the same thing. If you do the last thing, you're going to make an 8 here and that's going to suck. And you're like, all of a sudden, the whole story starts. Then I would encourage you to know those shots for you and have a couple go-to, I call them power phrases that you like that work for you. And the way that you know that something works for you is because it resonates in a way that gives you a little bit of hope or calmness over the golf ball. And that you can believe, right? You can't BS your brain. It'll spit it right out. So you got to find the things that work for you. And those could be your go-to thoughts over those specific shots. There's also tools you can do like that I share with people where you can crowd out a lot of those negative thoughts by walking through your routine in your head, kind of push them out. But yeah, so that might vary from shot to shot around the golf course, things that you're more comfortable with and your brain is quieter to things where it's chattier.
Yeah, when I was growing up, I went to a lot of basketball camps. There was a great one in Kansas where I grew up, and there were. You remember John Paxson used to play for the Chicago Bulls, and so he was a guest at one of our basketball camps. And there's 300 girls, right, sitting in the bleachers watching him, and he's got a mic and he's talking to us as he's doing his shoot around. And he's at the free throw line and he's dribbling. He goes, one of the thoughts that you could have is, if I miss this, the gym is completely quiet and it's nerve-wracking, right? He goes, so I don't ever think about that, obviously, because there are thousands of people around me when I'm shooting a free throw. He said, but how do I calm myself? He goes, I think, and he's dribbling the ball and he's talking. He goes, I think about my dad telling me, John, get out there and mow the lawn. And and then he shoots his shot, the guy never missed in this little demo and thing. And I was like, does he ever miss? But he was talking about, getting your mindset in a right mindset to be able to perform and just to shoot that 15-foot free throw.
I can tell you, I think I know Kathy well enough to know that it made her cringe to hear, I can't miss this free throw because the gym's going to be quiet, because Kathy, that doesn't serve us, right?
Right.
That does not serve us. No. Right. And the way that we know that is if we think the thought, right, when you have a thought, thoughts are optional. We have 60,000 thoughts a day. We only hear 5,000, but they all play a role in how we feel. Right. So when you have words create these little neurochemicals in our brain, and they transfer to our body and create emotions. So that's where our emotions come from, is by thoughts that are optional. We get to pick whatever the heck we want to think. Our brain has no idea if those words serve us or don't serve us. They don't know if they're true or not true. They just know how they feel. We just know how they feel and what we repeat the most. So in any given situation, you get to pick. I tell my clients all the time, I'm like, if you had thoughts and they were on two platters, one was tenderloin getting served at the Masters, and the other one was liver not getting served at the Masters, right? And they were thoughts. We keep picking off the liver thought tray all the time. When the other one's over here, like, you could have these thoughts right here, these nice little tenderloin, lobster, whatever is your thing, thoughts, but we keep picking off the crappy tray. And when you ask yourself, why would I think that thought if it's an option, if I got to pick and choose, because it feels so much better over here? So we always want to test thoughts out. Like, if I thought that, how would I feel? Is that a place where I'm going to be able to perform my best, or am I freaking my brain out? Right. And then that instance about this, it being quiet, and that basically that's going outside of you. Now we're thinking about the stadium. We're thinking about the people and what the people are going to think. Mm-hmm. Right now we're outside of us. Right. And then we're definitely going to put more pressure on ourselves over that shot. Anytime. And the other thing that I was going to say to add to that too, Sarah, is that your brain doesn't know don't. Like, it doesn't like don't go in the water. It doesn't hear negative. It just hears go in the water. Mm-hmm. So you want to be very conscious of where you direct your brain. And then in that example, Amy, that's a little bit more about that was a little bit of a crowding. I call it crowding out as one of my tactics. It's like, let's not think about that other thought. I see the liver tray there, but I'm going to decide to think these thoughts over here. And that for him, he picked those thoughts because maybe that, helped him block out other thoughts or get a little bit into a better state. That's where, like, if you said, go mow the lawn, you'd be like, I got nothing on that, right? It's like, I no pulse. That does nothing for me, but for him, it clearly did. Yeah.
I'm going to start thinking filet mignon.
I like it. You could think liver, but filet mignon. So I think this is kind of where this conversation has gone, but lately I've caught myself, I've had a couple really bad rounds lately. Mm-hmm. And what happens is I get in my head and I go, okay, because I'm trying to get out of that moment of what am I doing wrong? And so then I go back to having 8 million swing thoughts. Okay, what's your grip like? Okay, what's my swing path like? Okay, am I rotating my hips? Like, all those thoughts then start coming, but only when I'm really screwing up. So is that where the pre-shot routine comes in handy to calm those thoughts down? Like, how do you take control of those thoughts?
You ask yourself a shitty question.
Yeah.
Okay. If I can say that word on here.
Absolutely.
Yeah. Okay. So what was the bad question?
What am I doing wrong?
Yeah. Okay. So what is your brain going to do? It's just going to catastrophize, and it's going to come up with, it's like, oh, I'll tell you all the things you're going wrong because you don't feel safe right now. So I'm going to figure out all the different ways that I'm going to keep you safe. And I'm going to warn you of all the things that could possibly go wrong. And then it just is endless. We never really answer the question. No. We just keep going, well, maybe it's this, and maybe it's this, and maybe this. And now we're freaking ourselves out, and I call it chasing squirrels. We're like, we're over here, we're over here, we're over here. Right. So this isn't just I'm not calling you out so much on this, Sarah.
No, please do.
Everybody does. Yeah. Everybody does this all the time. We do this on and off the golf course. You want to ask your brain is very powerful, but you want to ask it powerful questions, and you will get powerful answers. If we ask ourselves crappy questions, we get crappy answers. Or what happens in that instance, we find ourselves going on this little, worry wheel where we start worrying and it doesn't. So what do I know that I'm doing is a better question. What do I know? What do I feel pretty good about right now? What do I guess it is? Right. Mm-hmm. Then it's like versus it's a little bit more direct. What's my best guess here? Mm-hmm. What's the one thing I can do right now that will help me hit this next shot better? What's the smartest thing I can do to get my ball from point A to point B on this hole? right? Those now our brain is looking for solving the problem and coming up with solutions versus freaking us out.
I like that. I'm working on that. I have club championship starting tomorrow, day 1, although I woke up almost immobile. My back is broken. So I don't know that I will be playing tomorrow now. It's going to be a game time decision, but
do you want me to walk on it?
Yes. I don't know what happened. I've been working out a lot lately, and I think combination of golfing and working out has just angered it. But if I end up playing, I've just been in a funk, and I think I just go out of a funk. What are you going to tell someone who just has not been playing well, but who's capable of playing well? And going into a big tournament that means a lot to them, might not, mean a lot to other people, but what's the one thing to focus on?
What do you think is the one thing to focus on?
Quieting my mind. Getting rid of thoughts, maybe.
Having fun.
Yeah, there's that.
Yeah.
You need to listen to my podcast that came out today.
Yeah, I did today, and it's I really liked it, and I related a lot with it actually.
So this is the thing you want to answer that question, right? Because I can give you a bunch of different things, but the answer is really inside of you because you know what's going on in your head. There's a couple things that stick out to me right there. You said that. Well, wait a minute. Let me make sure I heard you right. Did you say that you're in a funk?
Yeah, I haven't been playing well.
Okay, so I haven't been playing well. And then and then your back hurts.
Mm-hmm. And it's a tournament that means a lot to me.
A tournament that means a lot to me. Okay, so let me work backwards first. The tournament that means a lot to you it's true that certain things mean more than others, but the more that we say this is a really, 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 really important tournament, the more we're saying to our brain, this saber-toothed tiger that's going to eat me is really big. And when that happens, our brain now freaks out a little bit. Now all of a sudden, that's when we start chattering in our head and all the negative thoughts come up and we have all the negative emotions that go with that. A lot of fear, right, can drum up because we're making this tournament really, really big. I encourage people to the more we can make all of our rounds as even as possible, easier said than done, especially on Masters Week for sure. But I promise you, those guys are trying to not make it a big deal, right? They're like, even though it is, because they know that they get all those negative emotions and anxiety and nerves and fear. So the more we can make things more even, then our brain is not going to be all alarmed and go into fight or flight mode, right? Yes, this means a lot to me, but as long as I don't need the tournament, the win, the victory, the championship to mean anything or validate me in any way, and I can separate the two of those, then it's much easier on our brain. We got to remind our brain of that. Like, this is a fun tournament. There's a lot of, hoopla around it, but I'm still me, perfect and whole, no matter what I shoot.
Amy, did you hear that?
You're back, Bob.
Yeah. No,
because Amy is going out for the Mid-Am qualifier again this year, and last year she let it get to her head. So
big time.
Okay.
I mentally exploded all over this golf course, and but it was. And the first hole, I was like, and I got announced for the first time ever, which, why are we doing that? And so I got announced and I, oh my gosh, where are the TV cameras? And are there fans lining the fairway like they do with Tiger, So I'm standing on the tee box. I'm like, oh dear God, Amy, just get it in the fairway. And I did. It wasn't the greatest, but I got it in the fairway. I was like, okay, thank God. And then I could relax, right? And I parred the first hole. I'm like, great. I'm off to a great start. And the next hole, mounds of shit came out of my head. And it was all downhill from there. And I learned a lot, though. I learned a lot. You got to put that behind you. You got to have a little amnesia. That's in the past. That's done. Right. I can't do anything about that. And that was my problem that day. It was because it was my first big tournament. God, I just want to perform well. I just want to perform well with these other 9 really accomplished female golfers. You know, it was the first time I really played competitively, and wow, I just didn't want to bomb. And of course, what I do, you know, I bombed. But yeah, and then other times I've been so successful, and listening to you, it really brought home, you know, the whole mindset when you're playing. You know, if you're doing great. And like last Saturday, I shot a 73. I had a great day. I was having fun. I even put one in the water on the 18th, which really pissed me off. But I didn't go right all day. And of course, you know, I wasn't afraid of it, and right into the water. So, but I dropped and, you know, still made a bogey on it. And that was one of my 2 over, you know, but yeah, it was, and I looked back on it, man, Amy, you had a good day today. What was so different about today? You know, I was having fun. I was smiling. It was a green light day, as you mentioned. And you were relaxed, you know, and enjoying it because it was a gorgeous day. But yeah, it is all about the mindset as you approach it. Absolutely.
And this, right. And the thing to have a little grace with yourself at that moment is that you put yourself into, and this is how we learn, is we got to put ourselves into these situations, and then we watch our brain freak out. And then how do we manage it? And then after the round is done, you're like, okay, Amy, what would you do differently for the next time, right? For the next event. It doesn't have to be the next mid-amateur. It could be in the next anything, right? But what a lot of times people do is they miss that opportunity. They throw their clubs in the trunk of the car and they storm off, right? And they get all pissed off and never look at it again. But take that opportunity for whatever round you're playing in, whether it's a mid-am qualifier, club championship, or just like a fun little hit and giggle that you got in your head for some reason, is like, what would I have done differently in that situation? Good question for your brain. Your brain will come up with an answer, and then you'll put that in the memory bank. I've been here and I know, because if you go there, this is the thing where we do ourselves a disservice, is we're like, I've been here before, but I never came up with a plan after the last time. I'm just here again. Right. And it's like, well, I'm like, now I'm like going, I don't know. I sucked last time. I'm going to suck again, versus I sucked last time, but you know what? I decided I was going to do this time.
I love that.
Awesome.
I could sit here and talk to you all day, but I don't want to keep your time or keep you away from all the other stuff you're doing. I have one more question, and then I want to get into what you're doing. What advice do you give the beginner golfer, or maybe the golfer that only plays golf with her husband or something like that, that is really insecure about the group behind her, or the random strangers she gets paired up with that she can't get out of her head the whole round, that she's just like, I don't know, they're bugging me. I can't play.
Yeah. Well, okay, those are two different things, but let's just say the group behind you that's pushing you, that has a lot to do with, you want to listen to the dialogue in your head. Most of the time it's that you have a story about yourself that you're a beginner, therefore you're slow, or you're a woman and you're slow. Those are usually two of the stories that our people have in their head, and that they need to move along. I mean, unless you're thinking of something else. I mean, it could be that they're bothering me because I'm worried about what they're thinking. That's like your other scenario in that situation. So you got to find what is the cause of like why you were worried about the people behind you, which goes back to the people, but worrying about what other people think, which is we have no control over that at any given moment, whether they're standing there with their hands on their hips waiting for you to hit, or whether, you're projecting into their head that they think you're slow, right? It's all with nothing that we can control. If you are worrying about what they think, going back to what I just said, it's interesting for you to ask yourself, what do you think they're thinking about you? Because what you think they're thinking about you is what you're thinking about yourself. And that's your work, because you wouldn't have that thought if it wasn't already existing in your head about you. Right.
So true.
Having other people like in your group that are annoying, that's you learning how to not argue with reality. And that's going to happen in golf. So we go through thinking that people shouldn't talk so much, or they shouldn't chew gum, or they shouldn't move over there, or they should play faster, or they should play slower. And the fact is that you're going to run into people who do all of those things. And it just might not be your cup of tea, but your growth comes from accepting that you can manage your mind around it. You become a really mentally strong person on and off the golf course. If you can have all these people in your group and go, might not be your cup of tea, you might not like it, you might not be your preference, but it's okay because I can still manage my mind around it. I'm not going to give them the reins to my brain. I'm going to take control. I'm going to decide what I want to think and feel about it. And because that's always going to happen. Otherwise, you're just going to play with the same group, your favorite group every single day.
Right. And I think a lot of people do that.
I don't want to give them the reins to my brains.
Yep.
I love that.
I love that. Okay.
Sarah, I have one thing I want to tell you before you go tomorrow. Sorry. Okay. Everybody want to hear this. You want to be very careful that you don't start identifying yourself as someone who is in a funk. Okay. That is just, unless you have facts behind it, right? We have facts. You can give me numbers. I've shot this number, and I shot this number. And then you're making the thought, then you're creating thoughts and words in your head that I'm in a funk. But if we start identifying ourselves as someone who's in a funk, gets off to a bad start, doesn't finish very well, doesn't play well in qualifiers, always has a blow up hole, what's going to happen is when we go out, remember I told you our brain is always going to look to be right. Our brain's going to sit there and go, you can't play well today because you're in a funk, right? So let's start screwing up somewhere. Or it's about time for that blow up hole because you're a person who always has a blow up hole. So we want to be careful that when we have a couple series of things that we don't start attaching ourselves to a person who just can never break 90 or is always going to be an 80 shoot or 90 shoot or whatever the number is. And that just caught my ear. I just wanted to share that with you.
No, I like that. So I'm going in tomorrow as long as I play with that in mind. Yeah. Let's talk about what you're doing to help people unlock their true potential. So you have a program called Master Your Brain.
Yes.
And tell me about it and tell me how people can sign up for it.
Okay, so Master Your Brain is getting a facelift. It's going to be Unleash Your Game. So I'm redoing it. It's going to open up actually in the next week to 2 weeks. So you can find out more information on that at kathyhartwood.com. Basically, it's a go at your own pace program. I teach you the steps. I walk you through how to manage your mind, but I also support you on the other side with a bunch of live calls that you can come and get coached relative to the information that you're learning for a series of a couple months doing that. So that's a great way that's affordable for everybody just to get in and learn the skills and then get the support. Because we always have questions about our own scenarios and I don't want to leave anybody hanging in that area. You can also find me through my podcast, which is called Above Par, where most of my podcasts are pretty short. They're which I love. Just try and just kind of give it to you and give you some nuggets and you can carry on. So that's Above Par. And then I coach people one-on-one individually, just working with their specific stuff. And I usually do those over a series of 12 weeks. And you can find more information about that on my website too.
And I will put all of this in the show notes for everyone. So you can reference that and go directly to her links. Now, do you also do non-golf life coaching? I
do. I have quite a few clients who are non-golf, don't even know a thing about golf.
I love that.
And they just, So, because we have one brain. I'm just giving it in the context. I know how to talk golf, but it's like when I work with people, your brain, their relationships change. We talk about golf or work. We talk about things off of the golf course. And once you learn how to manage your mind, you take it with you everywhere. So it's all connected, right? Your off golf course life can affect your golf and your golf can affect your off golf course life, or it's none of it. I coach a lot of people on anxiety and anger and work and different aspects. Anything that anyone who has a brain can be coached, right? Because we just can't see our thoughts.
I just need you in my life 24/7. Thank you.
We either need to move to Naples or she needs to come up here.
Kathy, thank you so much. I look up to you. I try to channel you any moment I can on the golf course. And if anyone is not checked you out, please do so. Again, I'll have all of her information in the show notes, so you can go follow her, listen to the podcast, all the good stuff. But Kathy, thank you, and hopefully I will see you on the golf course soon.
Amazing. Thank you.
Yeah. Awesome. Thank you, Amy, and thank you, Sarah. Thanks for having me. I appreciate it.
Of course. Thank you.
Okay. Good luck tomorrow.
Thank you. Okay. Bye-bye.
Okay.